the first step of brand voice is noticing that you have one
Right.
and that you have, and how do you show up naturally? And we're going to move right into like personality, because once you understand you have this voice, the next thing is like, okay, well, how do I show it to my audience without giving them everything?
When the magic you create with your clients is hard to convey through your messaging, and it's hard to convey your expertise into easy to understand words, well, that's when you call my guest, Jen Liddy. Jen is a brand voice and messaging mentor who translates your expertise into simple messaging you can use everywhere across your marketing platforms while making sure you always sound like your real self. Because today, positioning yourself as an expert isn't about being noisy to get attention. It's about expressing why you're better, different, and the one to hire in a super clear and simple way. And Jen shows you exactly how. Today is all about the hidden pieces of the messaging puzzle that most coaches and course creators overlook, and how small tweaks can create big visibility. So stay tuned. Hey there, it's Michelle, and today Jen Liddy is joining me. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I can't
I
wait to see where this goes.
Yes, I am so excited for today. Like, we met this year, and
Mhm.
I feel so fortunate that our paths cross for a few reasons. Number one, you are such like a good, genuine human being. You're so smart, you know your
Thank you.
stuff. You're just like just good all the way around, like to have as a friend and all that good
Thank
stuff.
you.
And you got me all set up and gave me some clarity with what I was going through, with where I was pivoting, what I wanted to be known for, and all that. So you got me all set up with my brand voice,
Mhm.
personality, messaging, right?
Mhm.
Hence the
Yes.
1% effect. It's all like coming in.
Yes. Yeah, it's out there in the world now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I am forever grateful to you because you helped me get that clarity around my vision. And now I am able to articulate. So thank
Uh-huh.
you.
You're welcome. It's funny how when we're so in the soup of a thing and we think we have this like nugget, but we're like, is this a thing? Is this
Right.
a thing? And maybe it's not a thing because I'm so in it. And sometimes it takes somebody just who's outside of your own brain to like pull the thread for you and then kind of show you how it fits in all the places. And that I think is the biggest struggle for people who are experts in their thing, because they are in the soup all the time and they can't even see their own genius anymore.
Yes, yes, and agreed. And it was not funny. Well, it was funny for me because every time you were asking me the questions, I went straight to, oh, this is the strategy behind that. This is this. And you're like, no, 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 let's bring it back. And so that was a really good practice to go through. And even now I'm still getting comfortable with like, okay, bringing myself back to the voice, back to the person,
Yes.
back to that versus getting so used to what I was doing before, which is
Which
bringing.
is, strategy is your superpower, and like you just live in that space, and it's so easy for you to like kind of default to that. But we were going deeper and more nuanced and more subtle into the messaging, which is what we're going to talk about today. But like messaging is such a foundational thing,
Mhm.
and you can apply it everywhere in your business, but it's not only strategy. It's like, okay, well, what do I want to say? How do I want to say it? How do I set myself apart? And it's really hard to do on your own. So yeah, I love where we got with your brand voice and personality.
Yeah, it's so good. Okay, so I know how awesome you are. Can you share with everybody else a little bit about your story and what
Yeah,
brought you here and all that good stuff?
absolutely. I'll be quick because I used to be a high school teacher and a college professor. And for so long, I loved teaching. Like teaching is like breathing to me. And then I found myself like constantly second guessing, do I want to do this anymore? Because my students, they just didn't want to be in the room. And I had this epiphany, like I'm giving them all this feedback on how to understand what they're thinking and share what they're thinking and communicate their thoughts. I was an English teacher
Hmm.
and they just didn't give a shit. And I was like, why am I tap dancing up here trying to get them to care about a thing that they just don't care about? And that was when I slowly extricated myself from teaching and then moved into a brick and mortar fitness studio. I was a co-owner there. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth on running a business, but I was plagued with imposter syndrome because quote unquote I was just a teacher. Like what did I know, you know? So after kind of learning the ins and outs of running a brick and mortar business. This was just when online business was starting to come online, like 2012, 2013, 2014. Um, the brick and mortar studio kind of just burned me out, and I moved into the online space and basically just learned everything I needed to learn, took every single course, finished like module one of every single course that I bought. And basically, I just kept whittling myself down to, hey, my magic is in words and really hearing people and seeing their expertise in a way that they can't. It's all the stuff I did when I was a teacher. Now I just do it with people who actually give a shit about having their expertise clarified, basically, which is what my
Hmm.
students never cared about.
Yeah, that's that's so funny. I know,
Yeah.
and it's I go back and I think a lot like when I was younger, either the things that really mattered to me that like now I'm like that was so
Who cares?
not silly. Okay, it really was. But you know, what it meant back then and the
Yes.
big picture of things don't really matter.
Yeah.
You know, like on such and I guess that's part of growing up and evolving and all that. And I just think to myself, wow, if the younger generation, right, as they're coming up, if they could be more open to that, what their
Hmm.
life could be.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I just feel like it would be more, what is the word I'm looking for? Like just more, I don't
Easeful
know,
for
like
them.
say that again?
Easeful,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I have been thinking about this a lot because looking back on my online business journey, I'm like, if I had only met this person or heard that message or seen this thing or ignored that thing, I would have been better off. Like I would have moved faster or easier
Hmm.
or whatever,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
I've been thinking about this a lot because why didn't I? And if I had seen those people or heard those messages or ignored the advice, I don't know, would I have been able to actually put it into play? Like, I think that part of the journey is we just have to bump into some stuff along the way. And that's actually what makes us hear the messages we need to hear.
Yes, for sure. And it's funny because I had learned something now and I always try to share it with my kids and sometimes I think they're like, "Okay, mom," right? And when my son was, I don't remember if it was an interview or like a meeting with his manager or something like for a promotion,
Mhm.
he was so nervous. And I told him, "Okay, before you go to bed, I want you just to be thinking about what this conversation, how you wanted to go, what it was going to be like to be in that position as if you already, you know, and just put him in a
Oh,
different
yeah.
thought that
Yeah.
when he woke up, he went in and he had like he wasn't as nervous and all this stuff. And he called me and he's like, "Oh my gosh, mom, it went so great, whether I get it or not, or whatever the thing was." He goes, "I wish I would have had this exercise
Mhm.
to do for whatever else he had before, right?" So he's
Right.
like, "I'm going to take it and do it." And I said, "Well, I'll remind you next time because sometimes we forget, right? Like what it all
Absolutely.
goes into it. And because we just get so like, but that's one of the things that I'm like, even if it's just one thing like that, that you can learn or do, and you
Yeah.
know, rather
Well,
than
that
be like,
goes back
"Ooh,
to your whole the 1% effect thing. Like this doesn't surprise me that this is, what you're saying to everybody in your life. Like if you just had this one thing at the right time, the 1% thing that you can hear at the right time and put it into play the right way, like that's the foundation of all of your thought
yeah,
leadership. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
yeah." Well, let me ask you, on your journey
Mhm.
to where you are today, have you noticed or can you pick out like maybe like a 1% pivot on your journey that made the biggest impact on how you show up in your business or your life today?
Yes, but yes, and it mostly has to do with rest and working less
Hmm.
and doing less. And well, I remember when I came up, it was the 2013s, 2014s. It's the Amy Porterfield, Emery Forleo's like trailblazing, right? And they're figuring out what's working. And audiences at that time were different. They were like scooping, like sopping this up with a biscuit. They're like, yes, give and so it was the be everywhere, do everything, try everything, throw it all against the wall kind of mentality. So that's what I came up in. But over time, I just saw like it was really burning me out. It didn't work with my energy. And when I say over time, I mean till like 2023, 2024, like a long time of like trying this thing or trying that strategy and none of it ever really feeling like it fit because I just kept burning out over and over again. And so in 2024, I really committed to like scaling back, doing way less in terms of social media or content creation, even, or how I serve my clients, or like all of those decisions did not happen at once. It was like, I'm going to take this out, this one little thing out. Okay, that felt good. Okay. Now I'm going to take this other like and I just kept doing that until I got to the point where I'm like, "Oh, this is finally feeling like I can have energy and I like this and this feels like it's filling me up versus like bleeding me dry."
Yeah.
But so I don't have like something specific, but it always had to do with removing a thing that I eventually figured out wasn't it might have been working, like I might have been selling the thing or filling the program, but like it wasn't working for me. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Totally, totally. And that's why I'm not the anti what everybody's telling you ish. I say
Yes.
ish because, it works. However, it doesn't mean you have to do that. You
Hmm.
don't have to go at that pace. You don't have to do all the things. You don't have to stop and scrap everything you're doing and start this because so and so says that this is.
Yes.
And I think that that's what happens. And we get on this, I don't even want to call it the hamster wheel because everybody says that, but it is like the struggle, stress, bus to,
Mhm.
that you're not enjoying why you got into business to begin with. You're not even enjoying
Excellent.
your life.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you for sharing that because I think a lot of people feel like, well, I can't stop doing that. I
I
can't stop
know.
doing that because then everything, and then that creates more your now everybody's talking about regulating your nervous system.
I was just having
Have
this
you noticed that?
conversation yesterday. I literally had a conversation with a group that I'm in on Voxer, and I was like, "Have you guys noticed this messaging coming out about
Yep.
regulating your nervous system, which was not a phrase that anybody knew 2 or 3 years ago, except for psychiatrists and therapists and counselors, and now it's like mainstream. And what does it mean to audiences? But I'm hoping that entrepreneurs are listening
Mm-hmm.
because we did not have that verbiage coming up in the
Yep.
20 the mid 20 teens
Mm-hmm.
and now yes I'm hearing it everywhere and I'm really hoping that people get it that you have
Yes.
to regulate your nervous system if you want a successful business that you can thrive inside of.
Exactly. I love it. Okay, so we're really here to be talking about.
Yes, the nerdy
And
stuff
I
of
think this all goes
marketing.
in line, okay? Because we're talking about the hidden pieces of messaging that really help you stand out. And that's one of the biggest things, right? How do we get more eyeballs on ourselves? How do we sound different that it's not like, oh, here this another
Yeah,
person talking about XYZ, right?
yeah.
So what messaging mistakes are costing people the most visibility and conversations right now, but they don't even realize that they're doing it?
Yeah. Well, I've been talking about this. So if your listeners have been anywhere in the market, in the online space or the marketing space for any length of time, they already know messaging is important. They've heard it a million times. You know that you need to be speaking your audience's language. That's why your coach or your business coach makes you do target market research. Everybody hates to do it, but like what you are finding is the words that your audience is using. I have started as we came into 2024 and 25, what I started noticing is that's the floor of messaging. That is the basics. If you don't have that, you're really just missing the absolute basics. But in 2025, moving into 26, as we've all been seeing, like the basics are not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to think about, okay, well, what else is there with messaging? So let's just clarify what messaging is. Messaging, it's not copy, it's not content. It comes through in your copy, it comes through in your content. But messaging is essentially like what you say to your audience that they need to hear from you with your expertise. How do you say it in a way that sounds like you and feels like you and is your style and energy, not some co opted bullshit you think you have to do from something you saw online,
Right.
and conveys your expertise without boring them to death
Mm-hmm.
or missing the mark?
Right.
So, a good example of that is if 3 years ago, a coach had been talking about regulating your nervous system. Well, that is not the words that anybody in the audience would be using. They would be like, I'm so tired, or I'm stressed out, or I'm burned out, or I'm depleted, or I'm exhausted. Like they wouldn't be saying, my nervous system is dysregulated. It's a
Right.
jargon term, right? Okay.
Right.
So that kind of messaging wouldn't have landed. Today, it's more likely to land because it has been just, it's in the zeitgeist. Like people know that language now, but it's probably still not what they're using to describe their problem.
Right.
So anyway, when you talk to your clients and you hear like what's their problem and what do they want, all of that good juicy stuff from basic messaging on the floor, that's where we begin. But like I said, it's just not enough. So today I want to kind of unpack, if we think of the floor of the living room, we have to think about the whole living room. We have to think about the couch and the pillows that go on the couch and the throw pillow that goes on the couch, and whether or not you put shades on your windows or you put drapes on your windows or you put sheers on your windows, and like all of the things that soften up a room to make it feel like yours.
Mhm.
And those are the nuanced pieces of messaging that I don't think enough people have been taught or even have language for, and they really don't know how to do it for themselves because like we were talking about earlier, when you are in a thing of your expertise, it's it's hard to see it. Like you just have this expertise. You just know what you're doing. You just know what you're talking about. So like being in the soup of a thing, it's very hard to express to other people. So that's what I wanted to kind of unpack today.
I love it. Let's go. Let's
All
go.
right. Well, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, which the first one is brand voice.
Okay.
So you and I did your brand voice and
Mhm.
your brand personality. And I'm going to talk about both of those things today. I'm going to talk about voice, personality, and I'm going to talk about this third nuanced piece, which is positioning.
Okay.
But let's start with voice because it's easy to understand. And I'm going to talk about some ways that you can get clear on your voice.
Okay.
So if messaging is what you have to say, brand voice is how you say it in a way that kind of sounds differentiated from other people. A way that you would talk, an energy that you bring, the emotions that you have behind your words, because you can hear, I mean, we've all been in a situation. Like just think about, like think back to high school or college, like going from class to class to class. Every teacher still had to teach you something, and even though their content was different, they like some of them brought a lot of enthusiasm, and some of them were super laid back and super chill, and some of them were that like didactic. I'm going to teach you this thing, so shut up and take notes.
Right.
And all of those, we navigate through interacting with different people all day long, and everybody has a different voice, and we just like um, we come to their voice and we're like, okay, that's you. That's your voice. That's your style. That's how you sound. So brand voice is made up of three things. And once you start to understand like you have a brand voice, let's talk about the fact of how you figure yours out. So it's got three parts. It's the words that you choose to use. Like what style of vocabulary are you using? I'm a former English teacher and I tend to use really nerdy words and I like to be descriptive, but that's not how everybody uses words. So you have to start thinking about the words that you use when you're talking to your audience, the tones behind them. That's the emotion that you're putting behind a thing. A lot of that depends on your personality. It depends on your audience, like how do they need to hear this thing? But it really depends. It's like really like you focused. Some people are more emotional, some people are more excitable, some people are highly like cheerleadery. Like you can really sense somebody's emotion when you're hearing them or reading their words. It's harder and written, but it really does come across. And then the third piece is how you put all of these things together, like your sentence style, your cadence, your rhythm, like how many words you like to use. So I'll go back to being an English teacher. My sentences used to be very long and flowy because as an English teacher, like that's how I was taught to read literature and write papers. In marketing, it doesn't work so well. But for some people, like they're really committed to having long, flowy, beautiful sentences, and that's their style. So voice is your words, your tones, and then your cadence or the rhythm, how you style it together. That is different for every single person on the planet. And you may have noticed, you sometimes you get a vibe from somebody and you're just like, I feel like she's faking it, or I feel like she's
Mhm.
putting on an act, or in her marketing, she sounded like this. She came across like this. But then when I started working with her, she was a completely different person,
Yes.
right? You're nodding.
Yeah, because that happened to me. Because I was just gonna say, like, I was gonna ask, well, first I was gonna ask, so if you're someone that speaks in slang, which I think that's
Yeah,
why that
great,
happens, is because
great
they're like, well,
example.
I speak in this and I can't be like that because I need to be professional.
Yes, we'll talk about that.
So is
Hmm.
that a thing, or should you just
Yes.
go and just do whatever
It's a
you are being you?
You have to be you. In a minute, we're going to talk about how to parse out your persona and your personality because what people come to is, first of all, this is such a great question. When you have been taught, you probably have a master's degree or a college degree, or you had industry experience, or you worked in an office, or you were an attorney. Whatever you have been doing before, there were rules about how you were supposed to say it, or what
Yep.
you were supposed to say, or what's ethical or professional or right. I mean, I remember my student teacher mentor, like every single day, she's like, you can't say that word. You can't say it like that. You can't, like, there was always so many rules about what I could and couldn't say as a teacher to these high school kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when you come to your online business and then everybody's telling you, have a personality, show your personality, be more you, you're like, how the F do I do that? Because I got in trouble for that
Right.
in my, accounting job. And
Right.
now I'm supposed to have a personality all of a sudden. And the other thing that happens when people are talking about like their voice and their style and their personality, people are like, well, I'm not rah rah, or I'm not funny, or
Right.
I'm not like highly excitable.
Yes.
And you don't
Right.
have to be. And this is what I was saying about the brand voice is you think you're supposed to sound a certain way. The eunice might have been beaten out of you somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you can like tap into that and be like, okay, well, what slang would I actually say? Like, I'm going to give you a good example because I'm a 55-year-old Gen Xer. I really am still using slang from the 80s. I'm telling
Me
you.
too.
So when my son will say something that a Gen Zer would say, and it comes out of my mouth, it sounds so bad and so wrong. Like I cannot carry that off. But there are
Right.
certain people who just have like this cool factor that are able to do that. I am not one of those people.
Yeah.
And like, but leaning into that has let me tap into my voice
Yeah.
quite a bit more than I ever did, certainly as a teacher. And then, just like chipping away year after year at like, okay, well, she's in my industry. Maybe I'm supposed to sound like her because she's killing it. And what's he
Mm-hmm.
doing over there? And oh, he sounds more like this, and he gets a lot of attention. And it's like your audience can smell it a mile
Oh,
away
for
when your
sure.
voice isn't yours.
Yes, and going back to your point, the reason why I was shaking, nodding my head is because I actually bought something because I'm like, oh, she gets me, she talks like me, like we're gonna like hit it off, and I'm gonna have all the. And then when I got on the phone, I was like, this is not the same person, and
Hmm.
an instant regret of
Yes,
buying, right? Instant like, oh, what did I get into? Because I really feel, especially in these days with AI, right? We have to stand out.
yes,
And yes, AI can do some of the stuff. It's not replacing actual people. And the experience of what they have with you and that relationship, you can't replace that with
that's right.
AI, right?
That's right.
So it's even more important for what you're saying, which is why we're having this conversation to
Absolutely.
be you 100%. Just
Yes,
100%. And marketing is all about repelling those who are
that's
not a
right.
fit, right? And then the ones who want to go on the journey will. And that's
Which is
really,
scary at the beginning because, especially when you're just starting out, you're like, I need everybody. I need everybody. I need everybody. And so I want to be everything for everybody. But like you're saying, if you can repel the people who aren't for you, then you're not going to disappoint them when they get on the call with you the first time
right.
and they're like, oh, that we can't work together. This isn't what I expected.
I love it.
I
Okay.
want to get people starting to think about their voice. So I have a little exercise that you can do.
Okay.
So you're just in your head all the time talking to yourself. Like, I need to go get some coffee. I got to go to the post office. Like, oh my God, I got to go to Pilates today. Like, you're talking to yourself all the time. You don't have a good understanding of your own voice.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a good understanding of my own voice until I worked with my mentor to figure mine out. And he said very gently, he's like, you have basically you have an underdog voice. And that was always hedging, or maybe this, or if this feels good, or
Mm.
and that came from years of being a teacher and being a yoga instructor, where it was always like, oh, if this feels good, use the block. If this doesn't feel good, use the block to bring the floor up to you. You know, it's like, oh, that wasn't working in my marketing, but I didn't know that's how I sounded. I
Hmm.
was always hedging and using these words that made me not sound as confident as I actually am.
Right.
So every single one of us has trouble understanding our voice. So, number one, I want you to think of the person that would tell you the truth about how you come off. How would they describe the words you use, the tones that you have behind your words, and how you put sentences together? So you can ask, if your best friend or somebody who knows you really well, like say, how would you describe how I talk or how I present myself? They'll probably give you some insights that might be shocking to you.
Hmm.
The second is to think about the people in your house that you talk to all day long, the plants that have different personalities in your house, the dogs that you talk to. You probably have several animals in the house and you probably talk to them differently. Like, I know the way I talk to my asshole cat is very different than the way I talk to my sweet cat, and the way that's different from how I talk to my dog, right? How do you talk to your children? Start to notice the different voices you have, the words you use, the emotions you have behind them. So, like, if I see Scout, who is the asshole cat, I'll go, hey, you. But when I see Ava, my sweetheart cat, I'm like, oh, my sweet, beautiful girl, right? And
Hmm.
like, that's very distinctive. So, the first step of brand voice is noticing that you have one and
Right.
that you have, and how do you show up naturally? And we're going to move right into like personality, because once you understand you have this voice, the next thing is like, okay, well, how do I show it to my audience without giving them everything, right?
Right.
So that's what I wanted to move into next. But before we do that, do you have any questions? Because
No,
I
no, I
I
was
just
like, this is
fire hosed
perfect.
you with so
This is
much
perfect
information.
because I was going to ask you this, but we'll wait till the end because in my head, I'm envisioning how this actually moves the needle
Mhm.
in your marketing performance because kind of sort of what I started to express about, building those relationships and them truly seeing what it
Yes.
is like to be with you so okay, let's go into personality.
Yeah, so if the voice is kind of the next step up from the floor of messaging, then you're like, okay, I see how my voice leads into my personality, like my meanness, who I am as a person. And this is what we need in 2025 moving into 26, because people do need to trust us. Again, you have that great example of you got on the phone and you were like, oh my God, I feel like I got duped. And there's
Hmm.
already enough of a barrier between people trusting us, trusting anything online. So, how do you show that you're an actual human, especially in the age of AI, right? Like, how do I know this is actually you? How do I know that you're saying this thing? And so the personality part is the next like nuance in the room, in the living room of, okay, your personality is how you show up. And again, you know your personality so deeply, but how do you show up so that you don't feel like you're giving all of yourself to your audience? And I think that was a mistake that people started to make in 2019, 20, and 21, where they were deeply going into that quote unquote like authenticity,
Right. Well,
vulnerability
that's what I was thinking.
bullshit,
Hmm.
where they're like telling stories that sometimes didn't need to be told, sometimes weren't theirs to tell, sometimes didn't relate to the kind of business that they had, sometimes made their audience feel really unsafe, or it made their audience feel like they had to take care of them.
Right.
Your audience doesn't need or deserve all of you. And that's an important thing when it comes to personality. You don't have to bare your soul in order, like for the sake of getting business. So
Hmm.
this is where I like to do a little exercise of called parsing out your persona, because although it can feel shitty for me to say the word persona because it feels like acting and performing, and I need you to know like acting and performing is my like I am the worst at it. I suck at it. Everything is always all over my face. So like persona feels like a crappy word, but it's just who you are presenting as the face of your business, as much as you are willing to give your audience, and also as much as they need, because they don't. need everything.
Right.
So I like to do this little exercise, and anybody can do it. If you're listening to this in the car, you don't even have to like get out a pen. I want you to think of like three columns, right? And just like what are the three versions of your personality? And my favorite example of this is from a client who has she's a PhD. She's a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
I think, no, I'm sorry. So she's an MD. So she's got this doctorate and she did a lot of work in psychiatry. She's also the mom to a small child, and she's a coach to women entrepreneurs who also are moms of small children. So she's the coach, she's the mom, but she's also the PhD doctor or MD doctor. And I'm like, okay, I want you to think about which of these versions of yourself you're willing to share, because she was conflating them. She was like, sometimes I sound like a mom, and sometimes I sound like a coach, and sometimes I sound like a doctor. And it was first of all messing with her brand voice because she
Mm-hmm.
couldn't be consistent. Because
Mm.
the way you sound when you're like, momming is different than how you sound when you're doctoring, right?
Right.
So it was messing with her brand voice. So we had to parse out her personas. So in each of those columns, I was like, what's a non-negotiable for you to not talk about ever again? Like what is not for your audience? And so she could really say like, this is when I'm thinking about like with my doctor hat on, these are the things I don't talk about. My doctor personality, these are the things that never comes out. My mom personality, these are the things that never comes out. So I would suggest people do that. What are the non-negotiables in like with the hats that they're wearing, or the buckets or their personalities, or simply like three columns? Sometimes it might be four, sometimes it might be two, but generally we've got two to three aspects of ourselves that we're trying to merge
Mm-hmm.
to make our personal brand rememberable, right? Or memorable. I can't believe I'm an English teacher and I just said rememberable, which isn't even a word. So that's one thing. The second thing is when you decide which of these elements of your personality you would like to include in your personal brand, okay, what are the words or the topics? What are the parts of yourself that do consistently feel good bringing out? So, just as an example, like I'm not a coach, I'm a mentor I'm a messaging mentor. I work with people one to one for a short period of time. So, I'm not a coach. And my teacher version of me comes out a lot. It's in the stories I tell. It's just being a teacher is part of my identity. So that's actually part of my brand persona
Mm-hmm.
that I've just kind of leaned into. It doesn't ever feel fake. It doesn't feel like I'm using it. It doesn't feel manipulative, but it's when I parse out my persona, that old teacher version comes out. And I would say number one, so just remember you don't have to give your audience everything. Number two, what are your non-negotiables for those different parts of your personas? And number three, then like what do you want to commit to? And just like let it be that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that because that is so good because you're right. I think that we don't do it as much because I remember when you were talking about those vulnerability
Oh
times,
yeah.
like people would be in the closets crying and all this stuff. And it was
Their
like,
underpants.
you're like, I don't even know what to do with this, right? But then you're kind of like, I want
Yes.
to watch it because this, and then you're like, do I want to work with her? She seems like a mess, right? So it's almost like
Right.
it's like all over the place, right? And
Yes.
then we're also all human. So I love that you gave that. So it gives almost permission for us to decide, because I honestly feel if you choose to hide, not hide something, but not share,
Not share it. Right.
that's fine because you are allowed your own privacy, if you will, and to have that as part of you and does not need to be shared with everyone and still have a successful business and be relatable to people on whatever level you want to do. So,
You just use such a great word, relatable. I think that people have conflated being relatable with their privacy. And you
mhm.
don't have to sacrifice your privacy in the name of being relatable. And honestly, I mean, some brand voices, brand styles, brand personalities need to be more relatable than others. But like, there's plenty of people I've hired who I don't relate to. I just need what they have.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, like, sometimes I think I used to think like, oh, I'd love to be their friend or hang out with them or what. And then I'm like, wait, do I want them to be my friend or I want to learn from them? I want them to be my right? So it's really
Right.
about, honing in on that. That doesn't mean you can't be friends or friendly with them. It just means, what do you really want them here for? You want to be able
Yes.
to give them that result, that transformation, whatever it is that you're looking to do with them. And then everything else is like the side effect for that.
That's right. And I also think as you get more established in your business and you get more comfortable with the parts of your personality, I'm actually thinking about a coach that you and I both know who is a very well established coach, and she talks about everything from, Christianity to politics to business coaching. And that's not where she started, right? And she is very well versed in how to spar with people online in her very personal she's got her personality and it comes through, and she doesn't apologize for it. She repels the people she needs to repel, and she attracts the people who want to be in her orbit. That's not where most of us start.
Exactly.
So let your personality, like, give yourself permission. You used that word before. Give yourself permission to like expand your personality, or sometimes like pull back. Like, oh God, I don't want my audience to see my kids anymore. I don't want to talk about my grandkids anymore. Whatever it is,
Right.
you're allowed. Like, just because you talked about it once doesn't mean it needs to be part of your repertoire in your messaging.
Exactly. Okay, I love it. So, where do most people either over explain or over teach in their content? And then, how does that kill their clarity, which, of course, in turn kills their conversions, right? Or
Yes.
decreases the conversions?
Yeah, I can talk about a couple of things. Number one, at the most basic, they speak jargon. Like we talked about at the beginning, that floor of messaging. Like, they're not using their audience's language. They're not talking about what's at stake for their audience. They're not really, we don't need to be treacly and we don't need to be manipulative, but we do need to talk about like what's at stake or why this is emotional for somebody, or like help them see the long-term effects. So if you're speaking jargon, that's
Mhm.
going to, or also, this is a coachy thing and a therapy thing. They will talk way in the ethers, way over the heads of their audience, not because their audience is dumb, because their audience doesn't have a master's degree in therapy.
Right.
So if you're speaking jargon or you're speaking over their head, or sometimes in messaging, they're talking too aspirationally. The audience, like the expert who's doing their marketing is like talking 15 steps ahead about what's possible. But this person is like in the hole and they can't see, they don't even have a ladder to get themselves out. They can't see 15 steps ahead. So those are like the top three things that I see people, experts, making the mistakes on, because they've got the answers. They've got the education.
Right.
That's like they can see it so clearly, but their audience can't.
I love that. I'm so glad I asked that because I think that a lot of times we know that that's their goal, and that's part of the 1% effect too.
Boom, boom,
It
boom.
exactly,
Yes.
because what I see all the time is like when I first got into this business and I got in my first mastermind, it was more like a group coaching. And it was like we all sat down with the calculators and we're like, okay, we're gonna make $1 million. So that means $83,333
A
each month.
month.
We're not even making $1,000 a month yet, and yet we are gonna hit that
Oh
like
my
next month now, right?
God. Oh my
So it's
God.
like, okay, that's not attainable. Then when the reality of that set in, like, okay, it doesn't happen like how we think, then it becomes almost deflating,
I was just
right?
going to say, you feel hopeless.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think that no matter what kind of program or business or product or whatever that you're selling, it has to be something that's attainable, right? Or you're
Yes,
going to
yes.
get there and it's going to take time. You're going to have wins along the way, so you still feel accomplished. However, the expectation is set, and that's super important because if that expectation's not, your customers aren't going to be happy either.
Again, you're setting them up for failure, or you've
Yep.
promised them something you can't deliver, and then their trust is busted
Yep.
in you.
Yep.
It always comes down to that.
Yes, for sure. So when someone's getting traffic, but they're not getting the lead or the sale, what should they examine in their messaging voice persona like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, are they being clear in what the outcome actually is? Because sometimes I'm seeing people talk in vagaries. Everything is like gisty, or people want to know, and especially today, it's not enough to talk. For example, remember how much we used to see the word overwhelm? This will reduce your overwhelm. This will reduce. Not anymore. People need like a Polaroid snapshot of exactly what the result will be or the transformation will be. Like they really have to be, it has to be broken down so that they can see it in their head and it applies to them. It's
Mhm.
like not generic. I was working with somebody who's a parenting coach, and she was talking about, she wants to help moms of teenagers who like want to be able to talk to their kids again. And I was like, that's just too generic. I'm like, what's really at stake for these moms when during teenagerhood they kind of lose the connection with their kids? And she's like, you know what, Jen? When their kids go away to college, they want their kids to want to come home. They want their kids to want to go on vacation. They want their kids to want to live in the same town as them or come visit them.
Right.
That's what these moms want. And I was like, that's what you have to say. So there's almost a level of, I call it sharpening the promise and
Hmm.
being really clear. If you can't deliver it, don't say that. But like, you have to position yourself as the person who can deliver it and explain what makes you different.
Yeah.
Because getting rid of overwhelm or reducing your exhaustion is not cutting it anymore.
Exactly. I like the specificity is definitely key.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does seem hard to narrow
Yes.
that down. And the question that you asked that client was ideal. So if we
Mm.
all can ask ourselves that question, really every time we even go to get on a live or a story or in our post, right? How can our voice, our persona, our messaging
Mhm.
really hone in on that one thing and define it? And maybe in your market research, you can like maybe you heard a few things. Well, then you're honing in on each one of those things rather than
Yes.
keep going back to the overwhelm. You're stressed or
Yes. Drilling down
Mhm.
versus going up to the 10,000 foot overview. Like, okay, maybe, and if we're talking about Instagram, for example, or LinkedIn or whatever, an email you're sending, whatever it is, you have this example today. Use that example today to make your point. Got a different example? Use it tomorrow. Like, you don't have to keep talking about the same examples or the same stories. Like, the more variation and specificity, the more attention people are going to want to give you because they're leaning in like, oh, damn, I never saw it that way. Or damn, that's another good example. You
Mhm.
know?
And I will say that like any English I didn't ever do. I mean, I didn't fail English, maybe a B or a C, but every time I had to do English, or even now, every time I have to write something, I
Yeah.
literally pout. Like it's not fun for me. So if
Right.
you're in this situation where you're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, everything that Jen is saying makes sense, and I need to hone in on this. I mean, this is a total plug for Jen. But I think that you need to reach out to Jen or someone like her to really dial in on this because this is like almost, well, I'm not even gonna say almost. This is a make or break in your business.
At this point, it really is.
Yes,
It's boring work that, well, people think it's boring. Of course, I'm such a nerd. I think it's fun, but people think it's boring again because of all the stuff that they bring with them, like,
yes,
oh God, writing or creating, but also like you just do it. It's your magic. So it's hard to break it down.
right.
Which, oh my God, this is the perfect segue then to talk about positioning,
Okay.
because setting yourself apart with the messaging, the voice, the personality, like I've given you a lot of like little things you can do,
Yeah.
but I have a positioning GPT. Basically, it helps you, like it interviews you.
Mm-hmm.
And you are honest with it because it's not a human. You just tell it all the things. And then it takes you through what makes you special. Because the hardest thing for any of us is like, so what makes you different from all the other blah, 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 blah,
Yes.
blahs in the world, right? This GPT does that. It's called Nail Your Brand Positioning.
Oh, I love it.
And it's the third nuance of what I've been talking about. And it gives you a way to see yourself and talk about yourself so that when it comes time to write, or give examples or set yourself apart, you're not like floating in the deep end of the pool without like,
Yeah.
you're not treading water in the deep end of the pool, basically.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, we're gonna drop that in the show notes if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
of
Because
course.
I think that is so good because I think that a lot of times, I know I'm just speaking for myself, where I get into the part of well, I'm not different, right? Because you can't think
Right.
beyond that. So then you're like, I'm never gonna, you go down this spiral where
Rabbit
then it
hole.
ends up being like, I might as well just quit because I'm not different.
Screw
But
it.
you are, you
You
know?
are. You just can't see all the little zigzags, all the little pebbles that you have, like in your snowball journey that you have collected that make you who you are right now, that makes you different from other people. You can't see it yourself, but this GPT shows it to you.
Oh my gosh, so, so good. Okay. So, in the spirit of the 1% effect,
Oh,
what
yes.
is one overlooked tweak that someone can make in their messaging today that would create the biggest ripple effect in their visibility and impact?
Well, I would love everybody to think about all the things the four things I talked about today, like with that metaphor of the living room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which one is the very first domino that needs to fall? So if you're like, oh my God, I haven't done my target market research and I really don't know how people are talking today. I did it in 2023. I don't really know how people are talking today. Then you start with that. You start with your very floor of messaging. What the hell is your audience saying about what's their problem and how do they want to solve it and what are they looking for? So start there. Or if you're like, oh, all right, I've already done that, but I feel like I sound like everybody else, then your thing is like, oh, I have to really think about my voice. Like, what words do I want to use? What do I want to sound like? Do I want to sound like, I'm more of a parent? Do I want to sound like more of a best friend? Do I want to like, what do I want to sound like?
Mm-hmm.
If you've got those two nailed down, which most people, PS, do not.
Yeah. I was like, are they even making it past the first one? Yes.
We did all of this with Michelle together all in one fell swoop. And then if you're like, okay, I have my messaging, I have my voice, and you're like, the thing that I really need to do is like hone in on my meanness, like my personality, my persona. And then you do that exercise. That's where you should focus.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I think everybody could benefit from, no matter where you are, is like understanding all of those pebbles that you have gathered in your snowball journey. And that's the positioning piece. That is something that you can actually do now, and it can be plugged into all the other three. It's the most nuanced thing, which is why I built this freaking GPT, because I'm like, nobody knows what makes them special. So you could start there, which I'll give you the thing for that. But then you have to really say, like, okay, what's the other domino that needs to fall first?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
I
where I
think
would.
I honestly feel because if I had to say when was the last time you did market research, I can guarantee you most people would have said when I started my business
Yes.
or I launched this new product. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people, even launching a new product, still don't do it. They're just
I
guessing
know they're
what it's
assuming.
be. So I always say do market research and do it often because I think honestly, after 2020, I think that we've had more turnovers in the seasons. I don't even know, like where things change more
Faster.
rapid than they did
Yes.
before.
I
So it
agree.
was like, okay, a couple of years ago, now it's like 6 months ago, 2 months ago.
I agree. I
So I
agree.
really think you need to get a handle and on that market research, and even more so, this is a little bit away from the brand voice. Is
Hmm.
what I've discovered in having some conversations with people is they are not the people who, let's say, complete their program, they're just leaving. And I'm like, well,
Yes.
wait a minute. What do you mean they're just leaving? Those are like customers that maybe if you did market research with them to identify what's their
What's
new
next?
problem,
Mm,
that could be a solution that you have for that problem. So again, there's another area where you can do market research to
that's
then
such
say,
good.
okay, how am I speaking to those people
It's different,
that
right?
would let them continue on their journey with you as their guide. So
And
if
that is the genius of Michelle's strategic brain right
yeah,
there.
well,
There
thank
you
you.
go.
I'm just like, what do you mean you're letting them
You're
walk
missing
out
out
the
on all of
door?
these
Get them,
people.
make a phone call. I even had one lady was like, "Oh yeah, so we're on our last of our 6 weeks, and I'm gonna do XYZ." And I'm like, "Okay, so are you gonna pitch the next thing or to do another 6 weeks, whatever it was?" She's like, "Oh no, because this is." I'm like, "This is when they're hot, they're excited, they got the transformation,
Mm,
like yes, that they want it." Right? By not offering it, now they're like,
yes.
well, where else am I going to find that? Right?
Right.
So I think that happens so often, more often than not. I know that's kind of still out of what we're talking about today. However, I feel that once you have that research, once you have your voice, your persona, and your positioning is where it comes in, where now you feel a little bit bolder. You feel, that you
You're
can articulate.
feeling yourself.
Yeah,
Yes. And then you can use that next level of messaging in the target market interviews or whatever the people are telling you they want. Like they're at a new place in their journey. The messaging
exactly.
changes just a little bit for those people. So yeah, it's
Exactly.
like, well, I think that's the thing about messaging that people find defeating, but I actually think it's quite exciting because it's empowering, is it never really ends. Your
Right.
audience is always growing. You are always growing. Your business is always morphing. Their needs are always changing. How they want to have those needs met is changing. Like it is always evolving, which pisses people off because their messaging always needs to meet the need.
Yeah.
But like that's just the name of the game if you're in business
Exactly.
for yourself.
And the world is changing.
I know.
You got to find out where you're standing in that world and if you want to be a part of that momentum creating forward, right? So
Right.
it's just so it's funny, like for me personally, like the other day I was like, oh, this is not happening, that's not happening. I'm like, wait a minute, why am I complaining? I'm the one not posting on social. So
Hmm.
what do I need to do, right? It's almost like, no, 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 you need to do these foundational things, get committed to yourself, to your business, that this is what you need to do in order to move forward.
And to go back to your 1% rule, you don't need to do every single social. You don't need to be every single day 10 times. Like 1% shift once you have this messaging done, once you understand your brand voice and you've got your positioning, like 1%. It
Yes,
doesn't need to, it's not like you're trying to make $83,000 next month. Like
exactly.
1%.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, let's go into a few rapid fire questions.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right. Are you an early bird or night owl?
Early bird. Well,
What's
I
your,
used to be, I guess well, now is 7 o'clock early because it used to be 5 o'clock, but now I sleep till 7. I don't even know myself anymore. I'm kind of a 7 o'clocker.
I'm laughing at you because I'm like, wait a minute. When I wake up later, I'm literally like, oh my God, I've lost 2 hours of the day. I'm so far behind.
But I used to be at 5 o'clock, but now it's 7 o'clock, but that
Yeah.
feels early.
Yeah.
So I guess in my head, I'm an early bird.
No, that's early bird. Okay. What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, brownies.
I love it.
Like if there's a plate of brownies, even if it's still in batter form, that is a
You're
guilty
you're
pleasure of
going for
mine.
it.
Yes.
Okay, what is your go-to way to spark your creativity? Music, movement, or silence?
Movement.
Love it. What is your favorite way to distress?
Oh, okay. This is a very nerdy answer again. I started doing the New York Times crossword puzzle on my phone,
Hmm.
and I like weirdly like it. I can only do the Monday puzzles because I'm not smart enough for Thursday through Sunday, but it's like very de-stressing. And again, you start to see the patterns that come up over and over again. I'm like, oh, I'm getting better at this. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's the thing that I'll do now versus, oh, I took social media off my phone. So I had to find
Oh,
something else to play with my phone on. So I got,
there you
got
go. I
that.
think that's also good for your brain, right?
Yes, that's what I keep telling myself.
All right. And then last one, what tells you most about a person?
Oh, that is such a good question. To me, it's always about the level of conversation we can have.
Hmm.
So if somebody is like completely talking about themselves and disinterested or comes off as arrogant to me, like it's like I can read people, but if we can't have like a real conversation, that's like it's kind of over for me.
Yeah. So good. This
How
was
about
so
you,
much
Michelle? I'm
fun.
curious. What would you
Oh,
answer that last one?
what tells me most about a person is it's a combination of that. I agree with you on, I call it the me too. So even when you're in the conversation with someone and you're expressing to them, and then they're like, oh, yeah, because I had the same thing, da, da, da," and then all of a sudden it shifts to them, I
Oh,
can't deal with that.
me neither. I've been having this conversation for 2 weeks now. Oh, this is a whole different podcast. We
Yes,
would have
this
to
is
talk
a
about
whole
this.
different episode and what's really going on in there. And then I
Yes.
think the other thing is like how you treat like your wait staff, like your waiters or something like that.
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
really think that's a true, I mean, they're human beings. Like I
I
don't know why
know.
people treat them different, but that really is is telling to me.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah. This was so much fun,
Well,
Jen.
thank you. I blabbered on for an hour. I hope that everybody's still with us.
Yes, I appreciate you for coming on. This was so good because there's so many different action steps that we can take and learn. So where can people find you?
Yep. If you want that GPT, go to jenliddy.com. I'm a one N Jen. Michelle will have it in the show notes, /Michelle,
Okay.
because that's where you're going to find that GPT, and you're going to use the code Michelle to get it for $7 instead of $47.
Love
So
it.
that's like the best place to find me. And then but my website is jenliddy.com. I broke up with Instagram and I'm mostly on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. But my Instagram is now mostly sloths and donkeys and kittens. So
I
I'm
love
not
it.
really there anymore, but find me on LinkedIn. And thank you for having me. This is such a
Yes.
rich conversation.
Thank you for coming. This was so good.
Anytime.
All right. Well, there
My
you have
pleasure.
the hidden pieces of messaging that help you stand out with Jen Liddy. Definitely go check her out. And again, I will drop everything in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed the show and keep leaning into those tiny tweaks and stacking those 1% wins because they will add up to these extraordinary results. So until next time, let's grow your business together.